Alright guys, so here we have an iPhone 5 and it has a swollen battery, so it's not keeping its charge, it just turns off at random, and overall it's expanding and it's pushing up on the screen. So if you go to an Apple store, you can get the device replaced for $79. If it is still within the 2-year time frame from the original purchase, you can get it replaced for free if it's a swollen battery. Anything after that, it's a full unit replacement at battery cost, which is $79, and you get a remanufactured device, which is still a good deal if you're planning on keeping a device. But this is an iPhone 5. I can repair it for much cheaper and just give it to the little ones to play with. So I went on Amazon, researched a couple of batteries. I decided to go with Power Bear. It was $20, brand new battery. And since the repairs on these devices are not that hard, I'll go ahead and show you in the video how you can do it. Now, you'll see me going through this video. Now, I am tired in this process, so some things I'm doing much faster and not paying attention. If you pay attention, you can do it a little bit better, cleaner, and overall. Now, you're going to use a suction cup after unscrewing the 2 screws on the bottom to try to lift the screen up. Now, you have to be careful because if you pull too hard, you can rip the display apart because it has a couple of different layers. So what you want to do is use this prying tool and go around it and kind of pick it up and push and loosen it up as much as you can. You might have to keep going around. Like I said, you just have to be careful. You don't want to pull too hard because you don't want to crack the display or pull the housing apart. Because like I said, there's a couple of layers to it. You have the digitizer, you have the screen, you have the glass. So you just want to be careful with that. Alright, so now that we have the screen loose, you have a couple of different options. My situation, like I said, I just try to do this real fast and did it a little bit sloppy, but you can go ahead and disconnect the display so you have more working area, or you can have something that you can lean it up against so you don't have to hold the display. I decided to just do it this way. Now you have a bottom plate right by on the logic board that's got the battery connection. You'll see it clear in a few moments. It's 3 screws on there that you'll disconnect. 2 to 3 screws. And there you go. So you're just gonna, after that, you're gonna use the black stick to push the flex cable from the connector and disconnect the battery. Now I am not connected to any ESD devices, so if you want to, you can, but if you know what you're doing, you can also get away with not being connected. Just make sure the device is powered off. Now this is the tricky part. This is a battery pull tab. Now you're supposed to be able to pull on it and it's supposed to release the battery. The tricky part is that does not always happen. Same thing if you're at an Apple store, you go in for a repair and they pull that and it breaks, they will not do the repair usually in the store because they're not supposed to do what you're about to see. You're not supposed to pry the battery with another item because it can puncture the battery and leak all over the device, damaging it, and it can cause bodily harm. Now, if you know what you're doing, you can still remove the battery, but just have to be a little bit more careful. Just kind of apply pressure, try to go underneath the tab, and keep on pushing and pulling and loosening it up. Make sure that you're not using the leverage against the battery with the sharp parts. You kind of want to push it against the housing itself. So you want to push down and pull up. So you guys saw that the battery came out, and that's the bad battery. That battery is about 5 years old, and it started losing its charge about 3 years in. There were some issues with the iPhone 5 batteries, and this one started giving out much faster and eventually just gave out. Now what I'm gonna do is put these adhesives on the back plate. Now again, like I said, I'm tired and I've been awake for a while in a hurry, wasn't really paying too much attention, so you can do it much cleaner and easier so it sticks better. But it's, since they're adjustable and they're thin, you can, as long as it sticks in there, you'll be fine. Now, when you go to an Apple store and they do a battery replacement on any device, be it a 5, 6, 6S, or 7, after they do the battery replacement, they usually put it in um, a pressure tool where they put a little bit of pressure on the battery for a certain amount of time so it actually sticks better. You don't have to do it in this situation. As long as you apply a little bit of pressure, it'll stick. There's really not much room in this device, so everything is really close. That's why if your battery is swollen, you will notice discoloration on your display. If you have any kind of pressure on it, you'll see the display kind of push back on it and see discoloration and rings and so on. As you can see, I'm kind of just this where you actually want to have something holding up the display and would make it way easier, or just remove the display altogether. I just did not feel like removing extra cables and screws at this time, but it does make it a little bit harder when you are doing the repair. If I was doing this on a device that I was either gonna um, give to somebody, or a device that I was gonna sell or something like that, I would do a little bit better repair. But since I'm just doing this and it's a device just gonna hold off just playing for music and videos, I really don't care about doing too much on it. Alright, so now we're gonna take the battery, and just because it's red doesn't mean it's bad. You do not have to buy an Apple battery. You can go online and find an OEM battery, but in the end, batteries are manufactured by different companies. It's not made by Apple. So if you find a company that can make a good battery and has good reviews, you can get that battery. When you are placing this into the housing, you want to be careful with the flex cable. You saw me do it a little bit fast there, so that flex cable actually was pushed out in that moment. So I had to figure out how to hide that cable. So you'll see me playing around with it a little bit, but you want to be careful in this situation because you do not want to rip that flex cable, because that's the connection between the battery and the board. And you'll see me playing around with it, trying to figure out how I can push it in there. And like I said, in the way I've figured out a way. It's not that hard. You can still make it work. You can bend it since it's a cable and it flexes. You can kind of push it in between. And then you can make it connect. It took me a few tries just because I was looking through the camera and then looking at the device, so it took me a moment to try to adjust it. But like I was saying, when it comes to batteries, when you are going, you can get them on Amazon. You can get it for different devices. Anything above the iPhone 5, they are easier to repair. And when it comes to the pull tab for the batteries on the newer devices, they actually use a very similar adhesive as you saw here, where it's actually just pulls off. It doesn't usually have those tabs, so it's much easier to actually remove the battery. But just be careful when you look at the reviews and see what the company says. Don't get it if a battery is $5. Kind of watch out for that. But overall, most of these things are repairable these days. When you are repairing 6S and 7s, if you are thinking about replacing a battery in those for any reason, I would take it to an Apple store first because you might be under warranty. But if you're out of warranty and you don't want to pay that $79, you want to be careful, because when you do take those apart, they do have an adhesive in the around the device that holds the liquid out. You have to be careful when you are pulling it apart, because that if you put it back, that adhesive might not be the same. So you might want to try to find the adhesives online and see if they have those. But that's something to be careful with. Something when you go to third-party locations and they do screen repairs, they don't always put those seals back in. So something also to look at, and you can notice them because there's gaps on the display usually when they do that. Alright, so now we're just placing the housing back on, that plate to keep it snug and fit in there. Wasn't paying attention, put it upside down, so let me just correct that real quick. Now this repair on regular, it can take you anywhere between 5 to 20 minutes. It depends on how fast you want to do it or how well you want to do it. Like I said, just make sure that the device is off when you are doing so. Make sure that you keep the screen, if you're gonna hold it, don't get it loose and flopping around, because it'll disconnect the cables as well or tear the flex cables. But like I said, overall, it's something that can be done. Most of the components in an iPhone can be replaced or repaired if you know what you're doing. As you can see, once you open it up, the biggest thing is getting the screen off. You can see that there's a few components right in there that are easy to repair. For instance, like your speaker can be repaired as well. Alright, so this is just a power test. There we go, we got power to it, so we know it's working, it's connecting properly. Now we can reseat the display back into the rest of the enclosure. And when you push down on these, make sure it kind of pops in properly. Don't put too much pressure. Again, it's glass, so if it's not at an angle, or if it is at an angle and you push too hard, it might crack. On the bottom, you kind of want to push up a little bit before you press, because the screw holders there itself sometimes push out on the enclosure. But once we get it back in, we can screw it back up. And overall, that's how you do an iPhone 5 battery replacement. It's not something that's hard. I believe many people can do it. If you look at the instructions, you can go online and find the batteries, and you can save yourself about $50 if you do it yourself. So it's up to you. You have an option, and this is how you would do an iPhone 5 battery repair. And it's a working device. Hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for more.